Good afternoon. I'm here with my guest, Rosie Rosenzweig. And she's a resident scholar at the Women's Center at Brandeis University, has been since 1999. And her early poetry was anthologized in the first gender-friendly American Hebrew prayer book. She's into Jewish Buddhist meditation. She had a book out, Jewish Mother in Shangri-La.
Right there.
Right. She's also currently interested in psychological and spiritual states at the moment of creation. And she's also authored a play, Myths and Myths. And she's into something that we use at McLean Hospital, where I worked for many years, mindfulness, but she's using it for the creative act. So, pleasure to have you here.
Glad to be back.
Perhaps we can ask you first about what it's been like for being, I know you gave me the honor of being on a panel at Brandeis for the Leonard Bernstein Festival, and you've been at Brandeis for 10 years, more than 10 years, 20 years, 20 years now. So tell me how that's been for you.
Oh, they're wonderful women. It's just an amazing collaborative group of women that are in all fields, and they're very helpful to me. And they, there's a lot of artists there. There's now 70.
Okay.
70 in various fields: law, medicine, sociology. I mean, all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. So.
And I have my creativity panel there every year,
right,
with the Leonard Bernstein Festival of the Arts in
April. It used to be at the Rose Museum, though?
My panel started there, but then when my friend got married and left, and they redid it. Mm-hmm. So then the festival director advised me, just keep it in the Women's Studies Center there.
Okay.
So that's what happened.
Okay, now, your early poetry, as we were saying, is anthologized in the first gender-friendly American Hebrew prayer book. I mean,
right,
what do you
here.
mean by a gender-friendly?
Well, the history of Judaism and most religions is male-dominated.
A lot of things are male-dominated.
So it takes things and adds the mothers. For example, in the prayer, there's a standing prayer called the Avot, which is the fathers. So we would add the mothers: Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, things like that. And then the translations would be more gender-friendly. So, Holy One of Blessing, okay, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu. These things are masculine. So.
How so?
In the Hebrew.
Okay.
Hebrew is masculine or feminine. Okay. It sort of makes up its mind that way. There is no cisgender or transgender in the language itself. So we would take, say, the name for God, and we actually founded the name Blessed One of Being, things like that. And then there's the Havurah movement, which started here in Somerville, which is an entirely new idea, well, as of the 70s. And I was doing...
What is the idea behind it?
The idea is, again, gender-friendly, and they also have a new name, or they had a new name when I was doing this in the 90s, Rachamema, which comes from Rachum, which is mercy, which is womb, mother of the womb, compassion. So there would be these new Hebraic things. That's only one thing. And then it's full of poetry, my poetry, and stuff like that. I have a Miriam poem here, that got set to music by Beth Denish at the Berklee College of Music. So that's a movement that's now, all over the place.
That's great. Now, you're a Jewish Buddhist, and you're into, and you have the book, as we were saying, a Jewish...
Okay, this is what turned me. My son became a Buddhist, and he did a 3-year retreat in Tibetan Buddhism. Can we see that? There you go. And I was distressed because I was teaching Judaism at that point. And I thought, what did I do? Oh, mea culpa, what did I do wrong? So he came out of it. Actually, the title is Lama. He became a Lama. And he knew, he said this, he said he couldn't be enlightened if his mother's so upset with him. So he it's one of many trips he took me on. He decided to arrange a trip for me to meet the outstanding Buddhist teachers of the time. So I met Thich Nhat Hanh. I had a personal transmission. I had Chokyi Nyima Rinpoche, and then his father, Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche, actually on the mountaintop, honestly, in the Himalayas. And it turned me into an ardent follower of meditation, which is what my recent...
Now, being a Jewish Buddhist, is that an oxymoron or no?
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It depends who you ask,
Yeah.
because, you know, there's always a synagogue founded to argue with the synagogue before that, and there's always a question answering another question.
And
so,
Jews, being a Jew, I know, like to argue.
Right,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So if you ask someone who is ardently orthodox, they will call it idolism,
Mm-hmm.
because there are statues. If you go a little deeper into it, for example, the statues are supposed to represent traits like compassion. So you would meditate on that Avalokiteshvara to get yourself to be more compassionate. So it's not that, and many people like being a Jubu because Hebrew's too hard, you can just walk in and sit. But it's really a job to clean your mind.
They have Jews don't have a great idea of the afterlife, right?
Yes, they do.
They do? Okay, I always thought...
You got my book there.
Okay.
You got the play. The play is about reincarnation and abortion.
That's Buddhist.
No, I quote, there are, Gilgul HaNefesh is the name of the idea. It means the turning of the souls. So reincarnation is definitely in our tradition.
Why didn't I learn that in Hebrew school?
Because they didn't want to tell you. I think it might be too spooky. I don't know. The Haskalah, which came about early in the 1900s, was an intellectual movement to discard what they called superstitions. So, and then the Holocaust wiped out all the most of the mystical teachers. And now there's a revival called Neo-Hasidism. So there are texts that talk about it.
So there's reincarnation and
Right,
as
there's-
part of the doctrine of Jewish religion.
It's the mystical doctrine. Not everybody is crazy about it.
Okay.
I mean, or knows about it.
No, but I mean, it's there.
It's there. It's
Okay,
there.
it's discussed in
Mystical circles.
mystical circles.
For
Any
example,
documents? I mean, ever in the Torah or is
the
it
Dibbuk. Well, gathered. Let's see. When Moses died, he was gathered to his fathers. Well, you know, that's one step, and then the Satmar, an Orthodox bunch of people who were almost wiped out in the World War II. If you look at their dancing, they feel that now everybody's been reborn, or that they've had revived those souls. And there are texts about it. There are books that get quoted in my play. If you want to, I think you've got it over there somewhere. Myths and Myths. Yeah.
right over here.
Right. So I worked with. I don't know if you see it. I worked with the illustrator here, and you can see that I asked for a soul here and a pregnant lady, and she's looking up. So my point is, so there's an argument here between pro-life and the abortion folks, and it's not when does life begin. There's a line in here that says, when does the spirit become embodied in flesh? And we don't really know.
By the way, is your microphone there?
My microphone is right here.
Oh, very good. I don't want anyone to miss anything you're saying.
Oh, well, that's nice of
Okay.
you. But I started out as a poet.
Now, you're working on, do you have a name for your new
Oh, yes,
work? What's
I
it
have
called?
it. It's called, and this is the working draft. And actually, as I was preparing for today, I thought, I'm grateful for this opportunity because I need another chapter to explain it. The working draft is called Emergence, the Role of Mindfulness and Creativity.
All right, for those of us who don't know, what is mindfulness, first of all?
Well, mindfulness, it's really a loose translation of the Satipatthana Sutra. Mindfulness
Because I know we use it at McLean Hospital where I work.
How do you use it? Tell me.
Well, there's mindfulness training. I'm not involved in it, but I know they
Okay, it's been popularized.
Yeah.
One of the sub-points of the book is that mindfulness has been wrenched from its true source, the Buddhist canon, and popularized to mean bare attention. It's more than that. Or letting go has been the phrase. People think that there are 4 noble truths in Buddhism, and the third noble truth is really not letting go. It's something else. I mean, I could tell you what they are if you want, but okay. The first noble truth is that life is suffering, dukkha. The second noble truth is that there's a reason for it, and that's attachment. The third noble truth is that there's a solution. Now, it's been popularized to say letting go is the way out. The solution is the Eightfold Path, which is morality, concentration, and wisdom. And it's right. I thought I'd get gobsmacked, so I've written it down. It's right speech. Here we go. Right view, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness. You see, it's the 7th one there, which is around concentration, and right concentration, which is a higher. It's a higher form of concentration and meditation. So it's more complicated than just bare attention. But it's been used.
I don't know how they use it therapeutically. I mean,
well, I have a friend, Dr. Hoffman, who's written about this, and John Kabat-Zinn at UMass uses it in that way, bare attention, to just watch your mind, the stream of consciousness, essentially, only renamed as mindfulness, but this time letting go. And
letting go of what?
Well, of rigidities. Sort of, well, the Buddhists would say cleaning your mind, but it's paying close attention to the moment that you're in, instead of making up paradigms that are not really there. Just pay close attention to the here and now.
Okay, now
that's the
and so what
that's the translation of the meditation. That right mindfulness has got a different name in the Pali. So go ahead.
But I was going to ask you, so your book also deals with the psychological and spiritual states at the moment of creation. Maybe you can address that a bit.
Okay, this is really one of the issues that I had when I was interviewing the artists. I've interviewed 40 artists. Many of them have been on my panel. Many of them I just encountered or would have let me talk about their process, the moment. What's that experience like? Now, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi has documented that with 5 traits. That you have this, I'm going to, as I said, I got a little nervous, so I wrote them down. You have focus.
You have what?
Focus. You're focused. You have, well, what he called it ecstasy, but I've turned it into pleasure because some of the artists thought that was a little bit much. Clarity. You have confidence. I mean, as you do it, you get more confident. You have serenity. There's a quietness. There's a timelessness, and it's autotelic. Autotelic means it's its own reward. And that's the creative process. That
sort of sounds like when I do a poem, you know?
Exactly, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you won't get an artist to
I mean,
really
I never thought about it in the step way, but I mean, it's sort of, it hits you, and you sort of, hey, I got an idea.
That's right. But some of the problems that I had, and one of my colleagues, Leonard, who has since passed, confronted me, and she said, why are you doing this? Artists never pay attention to their process. They don't know what their process is.
It's hard to talk about, yeah.
You got it. And I would spend, well, first for my panel, I would interview the artist for the panel to try to get them focused on the topic. Well, if it's timelessness or if it's process. And sometimes after hours and hours, then it would just be a presentation of their work without reference to, so I couldn't use those interviews. But if someone really says, oh, this is what I do, for example, Nurit in one of the early chapters definitely displays dukkha. I mean, it's artist angst. You want to fix the world. You're coming from a place of, it's not right, you know, and you want to create something to fill that void. So I'm calling that dukkha, which is the first noble truth. And she then, she described her process so well. It's a liminal process where I am involved in engaged listening. She's listening to herself. Well, it happened that her mother died quickly, and she was creating a work around her mother and her grief. She did films. She did a lot of things, performance art, it's installation art where you would take part in it.
Right.
So she said engaged listening. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Zen master who has a place in France and was exiled from Vietnam during the Vietnamese War, has taken the term mindfulness because it's popular, and he talks about mindful listening, which means you basically shut up.
Yeah. Yeah, because you always have, I teach creative writing at a couple of colleges, and you always have earphones in, or you're doing something else, and so you got to get rid of all that stuff and just listen
to your inner voice.
Yeah, I mean that's, but like I say, teaching the kids the process is extremely difficult.
That's right, it
because
is.
It's almost intuitive,
It is, and I use that word.
But intuition could come through practice,
But everybody has it.
Yeah.
And that's the last chapter, which I didn't think I would do this, but how do you get there? You do nothing. You just watch your stream of consciousness. And I've got various approaches in the last chapter. But artists know this, and I probably used the word intuition or intuitively too much, because my argument is that when they're in that state of flow, there are Buddhist psychological states of mind that equate this. So that's the book, essentially. I'm taking artists who they don't know, they just threw it out in an interview what their process was. For example, one person said she has spilkas, it's pins and needles, so she has to work out. And yet when she was running, she said, I don't do mindfulness, I can't sit. But as she was doing, biking, swimming, running, whatever, her neighbor's Herb Benson, who is a doctor who has interviewed and examined Buddhist monks, and he coined the phrase relaxation response, which really belongs to a teacher named Goenka, but it's more like toning down. And he said, Ruth, you really are meditating. This is repetitive. You're doing a repetitive thing. If you look at the Satipatthana, I'm getting a little tongue-tied here, that particular sutta, which the Buddha, it's a Dharma talk the Buddha gave early in his life, it's breath, it's repetition, it's that kind of thing. And she talks about emptying her mind. So there are many approaches that artists intuitively fall into that I'm saying is I'm going to use the popular term mindfulness, but I'm going to explain how it's been torn out of its context and how it really is part of the Eightfold Path to purify the mind. A monk, here's a line that I use a lot, when a monk is meditating and knows the way to do that, it's for the purpose of purifying the mind, cleaning the mind, the stream of consciousness. Freud took it to a certain point, but this would be cleaning it to a point where you have attained nirvana. That's the point for the monk. But an artist will use this stream and then catch on to something and embody it in a work of art. That's one of the theses of the book. And I have, and then some things emerge of their own nature, and that's where I got the name Emergence. You don't have to read the book. But the stories are really nice about these artists, really.
Okay. Now, you got about, what do you got about now? You got about 11 minutes, 9 minutes to read from something that you want, poetry or a passage or something of that nature.
Okay, let me start with the prayer book, Vatahila Benu, which means clean the heart. And this is a poem actually that I lifted. It's at the last page of Jewish Mother in Shangri-La, because I was so upset that my son wasn't doing the Jewish thing, and he had an amazing bar mitzvah. He had the leading progressive rabbi, Zalman Schachter Shalomi, who has founded an entire movement called Aleph, as his rabbi. And we thought he was going to be a rabbi. So after I had these transmissions, I went to Israel, and Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. I went to Israel. I actually thought I could do this. I could bring my Judaism together with the Buddhist experiential. So this is what happened. This is a prayer at the Western Wall, and this is what ends the book. And I'm going to say there are mystical attributions to the Aleph Bet, the ABCs, the Hebrew ABCs. So it is, I say it in the book, that according to mystical Judaism, the world was created by words. Abracadabra is kind of a slur from aber de kadaber. I will create with the word. So here I'm talking about the ABCs, which have power and numbers. Okay. And it's a prayer. And I'm talking to whatever force we call God.
Okay.
Let me not be afraid of your letters, all fire, all brimstone. Without parchment, without bone, they are as fleshless as I am alone. They breathe, and I hear that formless echo. I'm getting verklempt. Sparking images of the first creation, they move, and all sensation becomes a silent rush towards the curved embrace of time. If I could close my eyes and remember you, who can light a bush and not consume, who with your fingers can make the tablets bloom with holiness, I could draw warmth from stone, or better yet, a rock. I could get honey from a rock. I could wrestle with an angel, know my true name, and not fall a victim to this wall of chatter. An easy prayer would be a bridge to you, my source, my love. Help me curl my mouth around that seed. I've lost my youth in search of inspiration. Give me the power of the first Aleph, the soundless sound before the first word that was wind, and the first silence before my long journey into meaning. So I think that's my best poem. And now I realize it took years.
Okay.
Just the way this manuscript has been taking years. Oh, you know, I'm meditating. I really, this year, decided, one teacher said, this was when I was in my 70s, he said, you're an old yogi, you better sit for an hour, at least an hour, because the younger yogis will have to look up to you. So I did it. And then I'm up to an hour at least.
Okay.
But anyway, there's another poem. Do I have time?
Yeah, so you have about 5 minutes.
Let me tell you, and this is probably why it's feminist, this book. This is the prophet Miriam, who after the Israelites went through the parting sea, Red Sea, took up her timbrel and sang a song. And this particular poem, I'm proud to say, Beth Denish at the Berklee College of Music, set to music, and there I am with Sappho. In this, it was quite a thing. You know, they really honor you at these musical places. You stand up and they applaud.
Yeah, I had a poem put to music by a Berklee professor. It was wonderful. Yeah.
Isn't it a great experience?
Yeah, it's a great experience.
So important for 2 minutes. It could take you through the day. So this is Miriam.
Okay.
It's a dramatic monologue, and she said it. It was a soprano that sang it. It's on YouTube. If you look up Beth Denish. So this is Miriam. And this is before she takes up the timbrels and sings the song, which I believe she wrote.
Okay.
I believe she wrote it. She wrote the Song of the Sea and then taught it to Moses because he stuttered, who said he could sing, you know. There is a song I hear, but can't quite sing, resting and rocking the warm air. It enters me from out of old volcanic rock, as dense as the dark past. I felt it in Hebraic cantillations, in the rising and the falling of a scribe writing on parchment. I know it like my own blood running unseen in the hidden chambers of my soul. It could resound in thunder, appear as fire, become a pillar, clouds, or even death for those who won't choose life or walk between the parting waves on the dry land of this dance hall where we would move as minstrels to the music that we are, have been, and always will be. There's a ton of Hebraic references there. That last line is to the Hebrew name of God, which is really a strange ehyeh, which is the 3 tenses of the verb to be, past, present, and future. It's not I am.
No.
It's I will be, have been, and always am. And then the pillar of cloud, you know, in the desert, Hebraic cantillations, stuff like that. So there's a lot of references like that in my play.
Okay.
To reincarnation.
What do you think you'll come back as?
You know, I'm working on that. I'm really working on that, because it is in Judaism. You do contemplate your death every night. There's the bedtime Shema, which is your deathbed vidui, confession. Let no one be forgiven. Let no one be punished on my behalf, stuff like that. So I just talked to our new rabbi, and I said, a lot of stuff happened this year, a lot of really hard stuff. I said, I think, and a lot of people die as you get older. You're a survivor.
Right.
I said, I want to work on, and I get phone calls, oh, this guy died, now they're dying, now I'm alone. I want to work on having a good death. I want to go out singing. I want to have a jazz band in front of the hearse.
Right.
But that's the attitude that will take you into the next lifetime. Now, I realize that the ghost is me, wanting to sing. I never had music. So it depends on what I've left undone at that moment, and I hope it's not soon.
Yeah.
So there's one more poem. Do I have time?
Well, you only have about a minute and a half.
Minute and a half.
This will be pretty short.
You know, I've had a hard year.
Okay, now you only have like 55 seconds, okay.
This year I have been demeaned and I have been thanked. This year and last I have been threatened, and then I've been thanked again. But I cannot be the selfish, packed sand demanding someone else's rain, nor can I be a stone oblivious to the hail. I can, however, try to be the gentle dew falling from above, soothing the ashes of a forest fire, and on a good day, on a very good day, I can be the blue sky for someone living in the dark.
Well, thank you very much. Do you have any readings coming up or any events that you want to plug very quickly?
Quickly, I think, in April 2019, date